So let's go ahead and call to order. Mr. Treasurer, if you are prepared, you may call the roll.
President Baker,
Present?
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Vice President Cole,
Present.
Ms. Gibbs, Ms. Hudson, Mr. Peretti,
Here.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. And I'd like to ask Professor Froelich to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if he doesn't mind. The flag is right here.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. You did it. Good job.
She did. She did.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. All right, so just so everyone knows, we do have Dr. Hill with us via the wonders of technology. She is there on the screen. She can see us. We can see her. She can hear us. We can hear her. Two of her colleagues may also join us to listen in on audio at some point during the meeting. So thank you for being here. We've got Professor Froelich here. We have Danish here as well. Thank you for being here with us, and Dr. Reimer. So having said all that, we're here for one reason, and one reason only, and that's to discuss the superintendent search. So I'll ask for a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Vice President Cole,
Affirmative, yes.
Ms. Gibbs,
Yes.
Mr. Peretti.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. So you have before you a copy of the report Dr. Hill and her team sent to us that was emailed to you a day or two or so ago. Hopefully you've had a chance to review it. Dr. Hill will take us through it. I also put at each station, just as a reminder, hello there. No worries. Mr. Treasurer, please note the arrival of Board Member Hudson. You also have before you the superintendent search timeline that we had published some time ago, just as a reminder. You also have at your station a list of those special meetings that we as a board planned to continue our discussion of the search. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Hill. And Dr. Hill, I don't know if you want to take questions throughout your presentation or if you'd like to have people wait till the end. That's up to you. We'll take our cues from you. But the floor is yours, Dr. Hill.
Dr. Hill and Dr. McKendrick are also online through the audio component. First of all, again, it's a great thing everyone had back in the summer. BWP has been busy on your behalf. We have prepared two updates that you've received this summer, one on July 3rd and again on July 17th, just to keep you abreast of what we have accomplished with regards to this search. The report that I'm about to share with you, the highlights of, is a culmination of where we are and what we've done thus far. This document can be made available to the public. So the first page really kind of gives an update and a history of how we became engaged and what we've done to date in terms of an update. We have been working with the search team, which consists of the ESC members, George and Bill, the members of Taft, the law firm, and Bill Froelich, the mediator, and myself, Kevin Kastner, and Paul McKendrick came in place of Dr. Wayne Harris. We've been in communication with them from the beginning, either via email or phone calls, to make sure that each of us was working with the roles and responsibilities that we had been designated relative to this search. So your team is right on point. Scott Werner of the district has been super helpful in terms of submitting communication. There is a special section on the district website devoted to the superintendent search, where documents are available for the public as well as the calendar, and that will be continually updated as needed. Ads have been placed in the major journals with the exception of the National Alliance of Black School Educators, NABC. They don't have a summer publication. However, we have been in contact with their president and have forwarded him the vacancy posting, which he will be announcing and sharing at their summer activity. We have mailed and sent vacancy postings to colleagues across the country, and we have received a number of inquiries with regards to the position. We are at the time of my writing the report, we were at approximately 13 individuals who had begun the application process. As of today, we're at about 15 who have begun the application process. One of the exciting things about that that I included in the report is the fact that we have a diverse set of applicants that at this point represent at least 10 states. We have not concluded our application review because the deadline is not until August 11th, and so many of the applications are still in process and incomplete. Of important note is the community engagement activity that the board sanctioned to enable both the community to receive information directly from us as consultants and for us to get a feel for the community's position and issues and concerns. And that's going to be the major focus of what I plan to share at this point. We did have an opportunity to interview every board member on a one-to-one basis, and so your reflections and comments are included in summary in this report. We were in the district and conducted a community engagement activity in which we had probably about 24 individuals throughout the day and in the community evening session. We completed the online survey, which stayed online for about 2 weeks. We had 29 participants to complete that survey. Any questions so far? Okay. We also had an opportunity through, again, Scott Verner and his staff and team to have a Facebook Live chat on Friday. So to have people actually take the time on a Friday evening to come and find out about the superintendent search was really exciting. And based on the statistics that come directly through that process, we had 600 plus views of that particular presentation. And in addition to that, that taping remains online, so people can go back and look at that if they did not have an opportunity to view it live at the July broadcast. What was fascinating, I think, to your consulting team, BWP and Associates in particular, were that all of the comments seemed to be pretty much the same. All of the constituents agreed with the leadership profile. They thought that it was right on point, that it addressed the issues and concerns, that it reflected the work that HYA had done previously, and they were very pleased to see that is the hallmark. That is what we're going to be using to screen the applicants. For all discussions, we had an opportunity to share the timeline. And I think that the biggest question that was the concern across the board, not only with board members, but with community members, through the focus groups, through the survey, was the concern about the timeline. And so we kept reassuring them that this needed to be a flexible timeline, that we would not present to the board candidates that we did not think met your criteria by at least 85%, and that if we had to go back to the drawing board, we would continue to do so until we found a pool of candidates that we felt was worthy of your attention to present to you, and that the community then needed to be aware of the need for flexibility relative to the calendar and the timeline. That seemed to relieve both board members as well as members of the community that this is not a rush job, that while we are aggressive in proceeding, if it doesn't work, we know that we have the opportunity and the flexibility, and that you, the board, are willing to be flexible relative to the timeline in order to ensure that we get the right person for you. So that relieved a lot of anxiety and a lot of tension. The other thing we shared with the community groups was we just did a little background on how the data was collected and how we were utilizing that data and how the leadership profile was going to be utilized. And then what the next steps would be. We shared with them the calendar in and of itself. We shared with them that they could have access by going to the website and getting information about the profile, the calendar, etc. We also then talked a little bit about the next steps in terms of the process that BWP will use in order to screen applicants. We will be individually looking at the applications and making some selections and recommendations. Then the three of us, Dr. Kastner, Dr. McKendrick, and I, will collectively discuss each applicant and give them our rating. And we hope that we come up with 10 to 15 applicants, or I shouldn't say 10 to 15. I should say we hope to come up with at least 9 to 12 applicants who we feel best meet the leadership profile criteria. Once we have made that designation and screened down that group, we will then interview face-to-face, whether it's actual face-to-face or whether it's via telecommunications, each of those applicants. At that time, if we do not feel that we have, based on the paper application as well as the interview, if we don't feel like we have a good pool of qualified candidates, we will come back to the board and say we need to continue the search. And that's where we get involved with having the calendar be flexible relative to that piece. And I can't tell you where we are with that because the application deadline is not until August 11th, and we expect that there will be more people applying. I'm speaking to people every day who are calling with inquiries relative to the position. And so we don't want to tip our hand and say that we already have a wonderful pool. We will wait until everyone has an opportunity to submit their application and we've had a chance to vet and go through our screening process before we make that determination. Once we've had an opportunity to do our vetting and screening, if we have what we believe is a good, solid pool, we will be presenting to you on September 5th, hopefully 4 to 6 candidates that we believe meet the criteria. It will then be your determination and your responsibility based on what we share with you about those candidates to determine whether you want to proceed forward or whether you feel that there's still something missing and you'd like for us to go back. But the intent is that we would try to have a slate of candidates for you on September 5th. Your calendar already has identified days for interviewing, doing a first round interview with those applicants if we have such a pool, and then making a selection of semifinalists. If you select semifinalists and there are 2 to 3 semifinalists, the next component of the process would be to establish a day in the district with them. The community members were very excited about the possibility of having a day in the district. I was very, very clear, very, very frank, and very, very consistent in explaining to members of the community that that part of the process is their opportunity to give feedback and input relative to a semifinalist. that it was not a vote, and really spent some time talking with them about the process of just reviewing one candidate rather than trying to see both candidates or all three candidates, and the importance of that particular process relative to being fair to you, the board, who gets to vote, and to the candidates themselves. That because they are not voting, providing you with focused feedback on an individual candidate was going to be more important than them trying to select or self-select one of the three. I had a couple of people kind of, how are you going to work that? And I said, we're going to use the honor system. That's the best we can do. We're going to trust that this community and the citizens will recognize the importance of providing feedback and not to derail the process by giving information and feedback about more than one candidate. We would use a similar structure as we did with the focus groups in terms of leadership, members being able to have an opportunity to meet with those candidates, site visits to the schools, a community forum for each of the candidates, interviews with an informal meal with a couple of board members, interviews by the full board at the conclusion of the evening, and then gathering that feedback. When we do the presentation on the 5th, we will provide the board with questions that they can use during their interviews. We will provide them with an opportunity to look at a suggested schedule for a day in the district. You will have an opportunity to determine who would be hosting those, and we will really walk you through the structure of that day or those days and that activity. Having a mediator will help us in terms of making sure that those protocols are followed. And again, the community was very interested in that opportunity to come back and have some feedback and some input. We recognize that we will have further discussion on information about those candidates that we present to you and how much of that information becomes public and how that relates to the Sunshine Law. We will have Taft address those issues and those questions. But when we explain to the public that this was the intent in terms of the process, we got a lot of positive feedback. I sort of dubbed everyone that we met and talked to that day, including the 600 viewers, as ambassadors to go back out and share with members of their community and their constituents the process and how they can keep up with information and their role in terms of the selection of the superintendent. So we feel that we're on task, on target. It was a very enjoyable day. And I've had a couple of individual inquiries from community members who contacted me directly with some follow-up questions relative to the timeline and some other those issues. But it's been all good and all positive.
Very good. Well, thank you, Dr. Hill. Are there any questions from my colleagues for Dr. Hill at this time on the process to date? Are there any questions from my colleagues? Okay, that was a very thorough update. I know I appreciate the written update you provided as well as the verbal update very much. It sounds to me like we are on track as this board has requested. So many thanks from me and I think from my colleagues. Anything else you want to discuss in addition to the update tonight, Dr. Hill? I know that we already have a number of dates on our calendars for special meetings that the board planned together previously. Colleagues, I provided you with a list of those dates again tonight at your stations. You have those just in case those aren't on your calendars yet. I know calendar invites did go out, so just make sure you do have those open. Anything else, Dr. Hill, that you want to share this evening?
No, again, I think we're delighted with the reception that we received from the community as well as our interactions and individual discussions with the board. And it's always great when you reach the people that you're talking to are in the same ballpark and having the same issues and concerns that then you can address. We didn't have anything that was out of line or out of questions or out of focus relative to the intent and how we're proceeding and the transparency with regards to this process.
Thank you very much. Anything you'd like to offer, Dr. Reimer, at this time?
Oh, let me
Yes.
Let me
yes.
just say that there was one other piece that came up from the community group, and that was a concern that once we look at the day in the district and establish school sites and locations for those visitations, for those individual semifinals to visit, that we're very careful about ensuring that they get a chance.
So while we're working on that, Dr. Reimer, anything you want to share with the board this evening?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We were anxious to hear the report too after.
Here she
reading
is.
it.
Okay. Are you back, Dr. Hill? Okay. Thank you. I think we got your last comment. I'm now polling the other members of the search team to see if they have anything to share with us. Dr. Reimer is a no. Professor Froelich, anything from you?
Same ongoing response that if anyone wants to discuss an issue with me, you have access to my email and cell phone number. You should feel free to contact me. And as we move forward, I'll be reaching out to you to check in.
Okay, very good. And hope you feel better, and congratulations to your wife on her new role in the other school district. Rita McNeil Danish, any comments?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to thank these three who are here with us this evening, in addition Dr. Tomball and Janika as well. And they've been working very well together as a team on our behalf, and we're very grateful for that. I also want to thank, I think Paul Brown's still in the room somewhere. Thank you for helping to set this up. I want to thank Scott Varner, who's done a great job working with the team on our behalf to make sure that we're getting everything out as we need to. And everything is just going very smoothly so far. And we look forward to hearing from you again on September 5th with a list of candidates or progress you've made to that date. I don't know that there's anything else we need to discuss this evening.
So
Board
what
Member
we'll
Hudson.
have, I do
Yes, ma'am.
have, thank you. So we'll have candidates on there will be candidates on the 11th. So will we receive information about those candidates and how will we deal with that? No?
No.
Okay.
You will not. As I understand it, Dr. Hill, can she hear? No? Okay, well.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but on August 11th, that's the deadline. And then BWP will begin their own internal process of screening the resumes and deciding based upon our leadership profile, which resumes they are going to present to the board. So we will not see anything until September 5th.
Okay.
BWP will have it until that time.
That's
Thank you
correct,
for the
yes. So
clarification.
between the August 13th and 31st, BWP will be conducting their evaluations, internal interviews, screenings to identify candidates. They're lining those up against the leadership profile that we previously developed. So they'll be working hard during that period, so they are ready for September 5th to present to us. Anything else? Any other questions? Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the cause of the order tonight, the chair will entertain a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, hearing nothing further. Mr. Treasurer, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole? Yes. Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Peretti?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
President Baker?
Yes, sir.
That motion carried.
Thank you. We stand adjourned. I appreciate you all being here tonight. If you have any
Yes.
questions.